I'm not some thug. Theo stood on the broken stage in Berlin alongside Heshe Ruhatz of the Ministry and Rudy of Clan Gangrel. 3 corners of the Anarch movement. Even though the 30 or so strong audience was mainly comprised of caitiff and thin-bloods. And neither are you good guys and girls. None of you are the simple-minded fools the Camarilla claim you are. You are mortal. Now you're not. But you're just as valid as those motherfuckers over in the Ivory Tower. A small cry of support resounded throughout the old theater as Heshe slowly clapped his hands. Theo continued, walking over to a pillar running from the side of the stage to the ceiling. We won't take their belittling shit anymore. We will not be second class. We will not be trash to be kicked into the path of the Inquisition. Theo Bell threw a punch into the concrete pillar, his fist smashing through the stone and out the other side. With a roar, he pulled his arm free and held it up. The supportive cry was now a cheer. Heshe raised an eyebrow. It was a theatrical gesture, but it confirmed his view. Better to be on this side of Theo Bell than the other. Hulking. Blood's Might. Percutio. Potence has gone through such a great deal of change in the editions of Vampire the Masquerade. It all used to be about hitting things hard and causing damage. But who remembers Imprint? The elder level Potence that was more for social standing than anything else. Sure, you could hit somebody with it, break bones, and truly debilitate an enemy. But the big imprint that the disciplined imprint would give was if you were in the middle of giving a speech and you put your hand down on a desk or grabbed a metal pole or something, and the fact that it would leave the imprint of your hand down. It put you up social traits and intimidation. Potence has gone that way. Yes, there are still plenty of cause more damage physical factors, but there are other things that allows you to do. And today, we're going to go through that. My name is Voivode Maquette. Welcome to our world of darkness. And today we continue on our journey through the disciplines of Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. And we look at Potence and everything that it's grown into. The book says, there's a popular saying among the members of Clan Bruja. You only underestimate our strength once. Potence is vitae-fueled strength, above and beyond other vampiric capabilities. More powerful than any performance-enhancing drug. More unnatural than the physique of any bulging bodybuilder. Potence is the beast let loose through fists, feet, limbs, and raw bodily power of a vampire. The discipline is used for more than just hitting things, though. It is certainly good for this task. It is the vampire's ability to force their body into actions impossible for mortals to replicate. Potence trumps other disciplines in sheer incongruity. An elderly-looking Nosferatu strikes harder than a mortal heavyweight boxer, or a Bruja embraced as a child can decapitate a target with one blow. Well said, and it's true. In Vampire the Masquerade, Potence has always been just Bruja, when you stop and think about it. If they were to make it so that one clan had a discipline, and that's it, just one discipline per clan, Bruja would definitely be the clan that you would think of when they're passing out the Potence. But other clans do have it. The Nosferatu, as also mentioned in the description, can have it. It's one of the more common disciplines for caitiff to take. The Giovanni used to be well known for Potence before the switch to the Hakata, and they went back to their old Cappadocian roots when it came to disciplines. But there are others, because Potence is one of those cardinal disciplines that you just expect that anybody might have. But if you see someone do a major act of Potence, that's devastating. you might think Brujah first. Characteristics of this discipline is that it is a physical type discipline. Masquerade threat, medium to high. Lesser exercises of this discipline might be passed off as hysterical strength. But once pavement cracks and buildings start to crumble, that explanation loses what little credibility it had. Everybody has heard of the mom who's lifted the SUV because it rolled backwards on their child. Adrenaline rushes can easily be explained, but someone lifts a manhole cover and throws it like a fucking frisbee, and the masquerade is out the goddamn window at that point. Blood resonance, caloric. The strong and healthy athletes and young men and women in their prime. Gym rats, wrestlers, construction workers, lumberjacks, and longshoremen. I would love to see a vampire feeding on a lumberjack. That is just funny as shit to me. It's just not really a career that you see very often, especially in an urban setting of Vampire the Masquerade. So, with what we've gone over now with Potence, it's pretty obvious to see that we are dealing with primarily a strength-based discipline, and it does continue that onto what the actual discipline itself can do. Level 1, Lethal Body. Using this power, the user is capable of causing horrendous damage to mortals, tearing skin and breaking bone with bare fingers. Cost, free. System. The user's unarmed attacks can now do aggravated health damage to mortals, if desired. They also ignore one level of armor per potence level of the user. Duration, passive. It's always active. Lethal Body is in essence Potence, but I love the fact that the health system has changed. That the idea of aggravated damage just being supernatural damage created by tooth and claw, or the banes of specific supernatural creatures, such as silver for werewolves or fire and sunlight for vampires, is out the goddamn window. Aggravated damage is specifically damage that's so fucking horrendous that it's going to take a long time to heal. For vampires, not quite so much. A night's sleep and some blood spent, it's not that big of a deal. But the way that it is described as you are causing aggravated damage to mortals is goddamn. That's horrifying. Now, a lot of people are going to overlook this discipline due to the fact that it does absolutely nothing to other Kindred in V5, and that's kind of a sad thing, and that's where my troop has decided to take its own kind of path on that and homebrew a little house rule here and there. The fact that it only does aggravated damage to humans kind of sucks. That just basically it's not a testament to how shitty Potence is now. It's more of a testament to how resilient vampires are. So that is something to take into consideration. You're still monumentally strong, even though most of your opponents are most likely going to be Kindred for the foreseeable future when it comes to this game. The fact that you can ignore one level of armor per level of Potence is amazing, until you take in consideration that in V5, vampires don't get armor bonuses, which I don't understand and I don't accept. Again, in my game, vampires can wear armor. It does do stuff, and it works the exact same way as it does with a human. So Potence does work on vampires in my game, or Lethal Body does work on vampires in my game due to the fact that vampires can and do quite often wear armor. Level 1, Soaring Leap. Possessing unholy strength and more than arms and fists, the user can leap far higher and further than any mortal. Cost, free. System. The user can jump a number of meters equal to 3 times their potence level vertically and 5 times their potence level horizontally. The user needs no run-up to make these leaps. Duration, passive. I love Soaring Leap. First off, Soaring Leap was one of my favorite things that they used in the Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt Battle Royale game. Please survive. It was fun. It's so fun, and the majority of people that I have story told for that have had Potence have taken Soaring Leap since V5 has come out. As it is, I've got 2 players in my game right now who both have Soaring Leap because it's such a great discipline that comes in handy in so many fun ways. And I think also because people read Lethal Body and just go, oh, this is useless. Which it's not. Depending. Really. Maybe Lethal Body needs to be rewritten. Okay, rant done. Anyway, with Soaring Leap, the fact that you can just go, I can leap 3 times my Potence level vertically in meters is fucking crazy. 5 times vertically, fucking crazy. I think my favorite use that I've seen so far of this in my game is and this actually just happened. One of my players decided that they were going to try to leap into a small window that was about a story above them. And they did. They succeeded at a cost because they slammed right into it and ended up almost dislocating their shoulder. But it adds so many story elements. As a storyteller, Soaring Leap is just... it's a godsend, because not only can the players accomplish things that they typically wouldn't be able to accomplish without obnoxious tests of climbing or trying to stack shit up on things, it's such a fun possible masquerade breach. When somebody has 5 levels of Potence and jumps 15 meters straight up into the air, holy god damn, you better hope nobody's watching. That's a human grasshopper. Very fun discipline. I love the fact that it works the way that it does. Level 2, Prowess. Vampires with Potence gain far greater strength from their blood than those who lack it. Cost, 1 rouse check. System, when activated, add the Potence rating of the user to their unarmed damage value as well as defeats of strength. Duration, 1 scene. This is one of those things, it's very understated, but it can be devastating. Being able to add your Potence rating to your unarmed damage value as well as feats of strength is actually pretty damn cool. That's just neat. If that's automatic successes when it comes to how much damage you're doing to people, and it's terrifying because it's not taking into consideration your ability to hit somebody. It's taking in consideration the impact of the hit, which is really what Potence should focus on with that kind of thing. Another thing there also is it does say unarmed damage value. This is the kind of thing where I would allow somebody to use like a melee weapon 1 time, but it's automatically going to break. You're so strong that when you hit somebody with a weapon, it's just going to shatter. And there's nothing in there, but for storytelling, if somebody decided that they were going to pull out a baseball bat or something like that, I would say the damage would be so massive to the person that I probably wouldn't even have the baseball bat do any extra damage, but I would have it shatter. And this is another thing that could be possibly considered into social challenges on that one. Level 3, Brutal Feed. Known as the Savage Kiss, this power allows the user to employ an unholy inner strength when draining a victim. In mere seconds, the attacker swallows torrents of blood while mauling the victim. The result is an effective, if messy, feeding, often employed in the heat of battle, where the mangled remains of the victim can be disguised. Cost, free. System. The vampire can drain a human completely in seconds. Usually within a single turn, every point of hunger slaked causes 1 point of aggravated damage to the victim, as their blood vessels burst and their organs bruise and rupture internally. Using Brutal Feed on a vampire does only superficial health damage to their dead and inert organs. In combat, Brutal Feed comes immediately after a successful brawl attack using fangs. The victim first takes the bite, then damage from this power. Armor does not protect against Brutal Feed, as the wounds are, or at least begin as, mainly internal. Storytellers may decide such mutilation killing warrants stains. Duration: 1 feeding. That's fucking disgusting. I love it too. I love the idea of I'm sucking with Potence. And I'm pretty sure that in the days of Laws of the Night, way in the past, we had people who tried to do this kind of thing. And the fact that there's rules for it now makes me really, really happy. Because there's no reason why you wouldn't be able to do that. That is a muscular thing. You're using your mouth and your lungs to like just pull in as hard as you can, and that could cause some severe damage. Being able to like nearly suck someone inside out through a wound. And also, and I think I've been very influenced by playing Blood Hunt, and it really reminds me of the way that the Nosferatu feed in that game, because it's kind of nasty and brutal. They just grab onto the head and they just start gnawing in there like a chipmunk with a fucking acorn. But I mean, there's really nothing else to say about this. The fact that it causes, I do like the difference between aggravated and lethal damage. I know a lot of people who have this power will be like, why doesn't it do lethal damage to vampires? Because it doesn't. I mean, I hate to sound like that, but vampires are going to be more resilient. Not to mention, humans are going to use those organs. Vampires are not. So, it's less vital. So that's probably the big reason on that one. But either way, I like the cinematic thought of what Brutal Feed does. And that's another thing, is like, I could see a Brujah using this, but this is something that I really see Nosferatu using. It kind of reminds me of Kraken's Kiss, which was an elder level Zamitsi power, where their head turned into a tentacle with like rows of fangs that just kind of slapped onto somebody and sucked them dry in seconds. But obviously their head's not turning into a giant tentacle. But I don't know, that's just what comes into mind. I could not imagine that discipline with Brutal Feed together. That would be disgusting to see. That's just to say the least. That would be disgusting. I'm excited today. I don't know if it's the coffee or what, but enjoy. This is rare. Take it. Level 3, Spark of Rage. Amalgam. Presence 3. Combining Potence and Presence, the vampire can incite anger and frenzy in onlookers as easily as awe or dread. The user must take care not to rile up an angry mob to turn on them, rather than the target or each other. Cost: 1 rouse check. Dice pool: manipulation plus potence. That's fun. The idea of using potence in a social conflict is always interesting to me. System: when active, the user can add their potence rating to any attempt to rile or incite a person or a crowd to violence. In addition, the user can activate this power and roll a contest of manipulation plus potence versus composure plus intelligence of another vampire. If they win, the opposing vampire must make a fury frenzy test at a difficulty of 3. Duration: 1 scene. This is fun, and I can see why Brujah in the Anarch movement would be so big on this one, because it helps them to incite. You know, it helps them to excite and to bring passions to a boiling rage until they're ready to go out in combat. I could see this as something that the old Brujah anti-tribute would have used as well if they had the position of like Ductus or Pact Priest, where you're gaining the morale, the anger of what we're going to do to those fuckers in the Ivory Tower. And this is just something that is well put out there. And it's one of those things that I was talking about where potence isn't just for hitting things anymore. Potence really can call upon what the blood has capabilities to do in social context. For this next discipline, I think there might be a little bit of a typo in my book. It has it marked down as a level 3 power, but that would mean that there are 3 level 3s and 1 level 4. So I'm pretty sure that the level 4 was supposed to be above this one. So I'm going to introduce it as such. Level 4, Uncanny Grip. Focusing their unnatural strength into their toes and fingers, the vampire grips and burrows their extremities into almost any surface, enabling them to climb and even otherwise hang, unsupported from walls and ceilings. Close observation reveals telltale scarring and deformation of these surfaces afterwards. However, as this is an application of brute force, not superhero-style adhesion. Cost, 1 rouse check. System, a vampire using this power automatically succeeds in any skill test to climb a non-metallic surface. The user might be able to climb copper or bronze cladding or other softer metal surfaces at storyteller discretion. Thin glass surfaces, though generally not the glass curtain wall of modern office buildings, may shatter under the stress. In the same way, a vampire can hang from a wall or ceiling for up to 1 scene, though only barefoot vampires can hang by their feet. The climb or clinging leaves obvious tracks detectable by anyone with an intelligence plus investigation test at difficulty of 2. Detecting uncanny grip tracks on glass doesn't even require a roll. Duration 1 scene. I mean, I think we've all seen those monster movies where something is like climbing up the side of a building and it's just like gargoyles just leaving claw prints in the stone. I like the idea of it in the glass, and I love the fact that like the idea of somebody doing that on a building is just very interesting. Like that's a lot of collateral damage. But the idea of using Potence to climb is very interesting. I also like the idea of the vampire who wants to hang upside down by his feet. And he like decides, well, I'm going to take off these boots and start climbing up the walls now. This seems like almost a... I could see Bruja taking this, definitely, but this really screams Nosferatu to me. Because this is just a... I don't know. This is... I mean, obviously you can't use this in Obfuscate because you'd be making a lot of noise while you're destroying the facade of a building. But it does seem like something that might be taken into consideration with that clan more than Clan Bruja. Thoughts? Interested in what you thought. Level 4, Drought of Might. The blood of a vampire becomes saturated with the power of Potence, conveying a part of that power to anyone who drinks of it. This is the Potence equivalent to Drought of Elegance. Cost, 1 rouse check. System, drinking a rouse check worth of blood directly from the user gifts the drinker with temporary potence equal to half the potence dots rounded down of the donor. The drinker gains the same powers as the donors up to that level. Duration, 1 night. For vampires, until the next feeding or the vampire reaches a hunger of 5. I love the draughts. I always have. We had a house rule at one point where people were allowed to take a second advanced discipline, and that typically came in the form of draughts. I'm glad to see this mechanic to have made it. I'm not really sure where we got the idea. I think there's an older discipline in one of the books, maybe in the Laws of Elysium Elder's Guide or something like that. But we came up with the idea of using draughts for the most part. I was allowing players to make up their own second advanced discipline. But again, most of the time it ended up being something like this. If you had a draught, it basically meant that you obviously had an advance. So whoever drank the blood were able to use any of your basic or intermediate disciplines that you had. Which was nice. It was a very story progressive setting, because we had gotten to the point where when vampires had up to advanced level disciplines, they were primarily using intermediaries to solve problems, which was a very interesting setting for me because it was a lot of vampires sitting in Elysium telling their NPC things what to do. So it was a lot of conversation on their end and a lot of me running around trying to write stories. But I do like the draughts. I love Drought of Might. I love the idea of drink this and gain my strength. It seems like something that that people would use with their ghouls a lot. And since ghouls stereotypically in the older systems came with potence and not other disciplines, which I do like the fact that ghouls were a little bit more fleshed out over time. But it does harken back to that, and it adds a little bit of nostalgia onto me that a power like Drought of Might might let your ghouls have a higher level of potence. Level 5, Earth Shock. Their strength, an elemental force. The vampire can slam their fists or feet into the ground, creating a shockwave that throws their opponents prone. One of the more dramatic applications of potence, this power needs to be carefully employed, lest the user literally bring the house down upon themselves. Cost, 2 rouse checks. System, no additional test is needed to create the shockwave. The ground is hard to miss. Anyone within a 5-meter radius of the user must make a dexterity plus athletics roll, difficulty of 3, with the result below. Anyone within 5-meter radius of the user must make a dexterity plus athletics roll, difficulty of 3, with the result below. Anyone prepared for the earth shock, such as a user's companion, can shift their results up by 1 step. Critical win, no effects. Win, knocked off balance, lose your current action. And failure, fall prone, lose current action, must spend a turn getting up. This power causes significant collateral damage. If used on the ground, the earth cracks. If used indoors, furniture breaks and mirrors shatter. On anything but the ground, the floor might shatter. Cause anyone within the radius to plummet to the floor below. This power can only be used once per scene. Duration, 1 use. Earth Shock is such a fun discipline. The idea of stamping your foot on the ground and having everything shake to the point where people fall over. Stamping your foot on the ground and just having that shock wave of like imploding glass. This is the MCU's favorite power I can see because it just breaks everything. If it's glass, Marvel will destroy it. But the idea of being in a building with multiple floors, using this power and having everybody fall to the floor below is so amazing. The way that this works with the fact that you might be fighting with an ally who might know that you would use this discipline is a very fun concept of the person who can stand their ground and not fall over, not get knocked prone. It is one of those things where you might want a code word, like you might want to have something to yell out to warn your coterie that you're going to do this. But like there's so many important there's so many disciplines out there that allow such great storytelling to occur, and this is one of those disciplines because it's so very near masquerade breaching depending on its use. Some places don't have earthquakes, and that's like this is one of the few things that you could actually say, because you're not going to find residue of explosives or anything. It's going to be like, did a fucking earthquake happen here? That's the only really thing that you could blame this discipline on. And I live in Florida. Like, if it's not an earthquake place, we don't have that. Level 5, Fist of Cain. The vampire's bare hands can inflict grievous injuries, lethal to both mortals and other vampires. They can dismember, pierce, impale, decapitate, and even rip a heart out of the chest. Cost, 1 rouse check. System. For 1 scene, the user can inflict aggravated health damage to mortals and supernaturals alike while brawling, as they literally rend flesh and tear their opponents limb from limb with their bare hands. Duration, 1 turn. So in the old system, the way that this kind of level would work, this is equivalent to the old Potence level, where it basically just gave you 1 extra health damage. Where instead of saying that you're causing more damage, you're causing damage that's harder to heal instead, which I kind of like, but it also takes a lot of glory away from things such as feral claws, or in the older system, in the much older system, the Tzimisce used to do aggravated damage when they hit with their claws, but they changed that to being more like Potence was, where they would deal 2 lethal instead. The way Fist of Cain works, though, it basically implies that your grip has become supernatural. That, like, not just your hit, but your tearing ability and the mending of that flesh is going to be even harder. This isn't going to cause any more extra damage to humans, but it now lets you do what you could do with level 1 lethal body to other vampires. So that is a very interesting idea. So what do you guys think of Potence on that? Do you think that they've made the right changes? Do you think that the old system is better? Do you miss Might? Does anybody remember Might? Are there any LARPers out there who remember Might? You get the bomb and you win all ties. I was never a big fan of Potence and LARP because it was a blunt instrument, which it's meant to be for the most part. It is. But I meant in storytelling as well. It was a blunt instrument in storytelling. It just meant that the fight was over quicker, which was nice because most players didn't really have the ability to continue role-playing while they were throwing tests at the same time. There was a lot of distractive competitiveness in rock, paper, scissors, which is not the point of the game. But now there's a little bit more of a delicate structure in the way that Potence works, that it can be used for various things. It can be used for travel, like Soaring Leap. It can be used for intimidation purposes. It can be used in social conflict with Burning Rage. It has grown into something that's a lot more than just, I'm gonna punch this and it's gonna go down faster. I find it to be a little bit more scary. In the old days, when I played LARP, I was very much into the whole the type of damage doesn't matter as long as you can get enough in at once. And having 5 levels of Potence and 5 levels of Celerity definitely caused that to be the case. To be able to get in there and just like, I'm gonna hit him 3 times in 1 round, so the motherfucker's gonna go down really fucking quick. Which was nice for the time, but this is a more cinematic view on these disciplines, and I like the way that Potence has turned out. A lot of people that I have played with has had the same outlook as me on that Potence has gone from merely a tool that you use, a means to an end, to being a more interesting thing. The idea of having the vampire with Potence that doesn't exactly hit harder than a vampire without, because they're using the application for other things. Just an example of that, if you had Soaring Leap, Brutal Feed, Spark of Rage, Drought of Might, and Fists of Cain as your Potence lineup, you're dealing aggravated damage when you hit now. That's true. But it's not causing more damage. It's causing harsher damage that's harder to fix. And I built basically there a vampire that's almost completely built off the concept of social Potence. Because Soaring Leap can be awe-inspiring if it's used in the right way. Brutal Feed is terrifying. If you use that during a speech, and I'm taking a very low humanity vampire into consideration with this, but could you imagine being in the middle of some pre-war pep rally and trying to get everybody freaked out and excited and stuff, and you just grab a hold of a mortal and you basically gunshot it like you would with a can of beer, and then throw it to the side. That's gonna ramp things up. I would actually say add your potence level to your socials to get people excited on that one. Might of Drought is amazing, and Spark of Rage is inspiring. So the way that I see it, Potent has grown into more of a universal tool than just I'm gonna hit things. I like it that way, and I wonder what everybody else does. I am Voivode Maquette. This has been our World of Darkness, and the next power we're going to look at is the seductive abilities of presence. Thank you for joining me. Have a good evening.